I mean, many of us have been making that comparison between the climate change movement, anti-racism movement, the transgender movement, et cetera, as essentially moral believing communities, religions, if you like. You're much more specific, however. You talk about it as a form of Puritanism. Why so?
Right, because, well, as you say, this isn't necessarily the most innovative observation. Many people have had this observation and likened the modern left with its emphasis on moral redemption, which is quite a departure from the liberalism of the 20th century. But they've likened it to something akin to a religion, and I see that. But it's more than that. It doesn't fit within the rubric of religiosity as we understand it in the West, because it lacks a deism and it lacks the capacity for moral redemption, which the vehicle of which tends to be a deism. It is a much more all-consuming habit than that. It is a way of life, a theory of social organization, an alternative theory of social organization, but one that's very familiar in the American and the Anglo tradition. And perhaps Puritanism is as close as it gets, insofar as it prescribes a moral code, a theory of how society should organize themselves around that code, and it has a distaste, a palatable distaste for distractions and frivolities that take you away from your moral duty to focus on and dwell upon the world's evils and its horrors and its imperfections at all times and in all things, in order for you to focus on that which you can achieve, what you can do to make this a better world. In the abstract, it's a wholly noble moral code. In its manifestations in day-to-day life, we see it primarily as a zealotry, a fundamentalism that fixates on trivialities at the risk of the grander picture. And that is very similar to what we saw in Big P Puritanism in the 1600s and 1700s, and what it evolved into, which is really where our minds go when we think about Puritanism, which isn't necessarily puritanical at all, but more of a Victorian moralism, that kind of preening, blue nose, scoldish moralist. That's what we think of when we think of Puritanism, which is more of a caricature of Victorian era ethos than Puritanism itself. But that, applying that rubric to the modern Puritan or modern progressive project, opens up a whole lot of doors. It really does feel like a decoder ring to help you understand all these bewildering phenomena that we're witnessing.